Hello. One of my children asked me to explain Brexit to him, so I explained it and he understood after I'd explained. So here's that explanation in case you're confused by what Brexit is. So imagine you are in a club. Let's say it's the local football club. You are whatever age, 10, 15, 20, 40, it doesn't matter. Every weekend you go to your local park to play football with your team against another team in a league that contains maybe 15 teams in your local area. You have to pay for that privilege because of the expenses involved. Someone has to cut the grass, someone else has to buy the goalpost and the nets and the football kits, the balls and everything else. And other people need to organise the whole thing, who plays where and when and against who. These things all take time and energy. It doesn't have to be a football club. I explained to my son using our karate club as the example. It could even be a reading club. All clubs need money to help them to function. Maybe it's not a lot of money, but it's still money. From the club, the members get something back. Skills, experiences, friendships, health, support, knowledge, maybe contacts for when perhaps we need an electrician or a plumber. You might even get a discount from that plumber because you play for that club. So we're growing our network of people by being a member of that club. As you get more contacts and deeper networks, you might have some influence over how the club is run, who plays, the colour of your football kit, the nights when you practice. But as I said, you need to pay for that privilege. The EU is similar. It's like a sports club or reading club that needs money to function. In return for that money, you get things in return. As members of the EU, countries get to buy and sell things between member countries easily. Members get the support of other countries when things go a little bit wrong. Members can enjoy easier access to other markets outside the EU that have agreements with the EU. As a successful member of the EU, you get more influence in how the club is run, who can join and how the different agreements work. In 2016, the UK decided to leave the EU club. Now, if you leave your local sports club, you cannot expect to turn up at the weekend to play football with that club. You can't expect to continue playing against other clubs in the same league, or indeed with other clubs in different leagues. You cannot expect to be invited to the annual Christmas dinner for the club. The club may decide to invite you because you're still a friend, but you cannot expect to be able to suggest to the club where they have that dinner and what day and time to go for that dinner. Even if the other players in the club are still your friends, you can't expect to have any influence over their decisions if you're no longer a member. Similarly, if the club has negotiated a discount with the local sports shop to get a 10% discount on the price of football boots, you can't expect to still get that 10% discount if you're no longer a member. And it's exactly the same if it's a bookshop and there's a discount for the reading club. You won't get that 10% discount on books. Leaving the EU is a bit like that example of leaving the sports club. The people in the UK in power suggested that we could leave the EU club and still keep the best bits while not needing to pay for those best bits. And that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? The British people were promised that by not being in the club, we would not need to pay to be members. Okay, that makes sense. But they also said we could continue getting the discount on the football boots or books, which in EU membership terms means buying and selling our goods and services freely between other member states. That doesn't make sense, does it? The British people were promised that we could form new trade partnerships with other countries as well as still trading with the EU. That's like saying, if you leave the sports club, you could still play football against the other teams in the same league and also play against other teams in different leagues. And that doesn't make sense. Why would the other teams want to play with you? They already have teams to play with. You're just one person. Even if you're super talented at football, you can't expect to compete against other teams equally. As one player, you are weaker than you are in a team of players. The British people were promised that we could control our own laws and control who comes to live and work in the UK from the EU. Okay, a lot of British people were concerned about migration from the EU, but let's see how those 2 points stand up if we use the football comparison again. If you leave your football team and start your own, yes, you can decide who comes to play with you, but that assumes other people want to come and play with you. If you have no players, you have no team. And we see this problem in many areas of the UK economy which rely on labour from the EU. For example, hospitality. If a hotel cannot get the staff, the hotel cannot open. If a farm cannot get the people to pick the fruit and collect the vegetables, there's no farm business. The same with football. No football players, no team. As an individual, you can change the rules of football to suit yourself. Well, that might be fun. But as soon as you want to play against other teams, you can't play the game using your rules while they play using their rules. That would be quite chaotic, wouldn't it? So anytime you need to play against your previous team or a team in their league, you have to revert to their rules again. Your new rules are fairly useless. So in a nutshell, the British people, or the 52% of British people who voted to leave, were sold a huge lie about leaving the EU. And they were sold that lie by a lot of people who either had a lot to gain personally from leaving or are just monumentally stupid. The 48% who voted Remain in 2016 understood that being a member of a large club is, despite the expense and sometimes the arguments and disagreements, being a member of that club is overall a good thing. Thank you.